Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Josh.
And I'm Drew.
This is our monthly review for January. We're going to talk about some of our favorites and least favorites out of our pull list for the month of January, thus the name. We have, what do we have? We got 6 titles, kind of 7, I guess. We got a bonus one we're going to talk about today in our top, and then like 3 or 4 things that we didn't like so much. So we discuss about a third of our pull list here. So this week, do we want to run real quick over what our 6 tops are, and then we can break it out and talk about them? How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, I have Dreaming Eagles number 2, Astonishing Ant-Man number 4, and Sheriff of Babylon number 3. It's 3, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Have I Hate Fairyland 4, Jupiter Circle Volume 2 number 3, and The Visual number 4.
In our top choices, some months we can be kind of split where we have some stuff that I really liked that you were okay on, and sometimes you have some stuff you really liked that I was okay on. But I think this is one of those months where we're pretty damn well in agreement here.
Pretty much. I mean, if I had to pick a top 6, like it'd pretty much be this.
It would be these. When we talked about this before the show, we actually kind of just drew these at random, which ones we're going to talk about, because they're all 6 are really good this month. So let's start off talking about Ennis and Colby's Dreaming Eagles number 2. This is an Aftershock comic. My understanding is Aftershock is a new imprint. This is kind of like one of their kickoff titles that they're doing. I don't know if they were around and are back or what, but they've got this whole new round of stuff coming out. So,
do you know when they started putting stuff out?
Recently, just a few months back. Like, very cool. This is number 2, and this is one of the first things they've had. We have some other stuff. They have Replica, which is doing really well as well, and then there's like 3 or 4 other titles that are all on like issue 2 as well.
Sure.
Right away, this one. When we talked about it during our weekly poll list, we both agreed that the writing here is super strong in a narrative form. It's a very narrative-based story. The dialogue is interspersed to fill the story out, but it's very narrative-driven, which kind of works well for this historical drama.
Yeah, it does. And that was very... Well, it showed up more in this issue by a lot than it did in the first issue, because the first issue, again, was just sort of setting up this scene for us where, essentially we have one person just telling another person a story, and we're like viewing that story. But, the setup of the telling of that story. And I like that they took the care with that to really make us care about why the person was telling the story to begin with. It's like that one extra step that you don't usually get with
a lot of comics, this would be issue number 1. But instead, we had a first issue that set up why the story is being told. You're exactly right. And it really helps strengthen what feels like the actual first issue here because of that, I think.
Not to mention, the artwork on this was fantastic. And it has been fantastic. I mean, there's only been 2 issues, but it's been great in both of them. So I have no reason to believe that the rest of... We're only going to get 6 out of this, unfortunately. But
yeah, it feels like it's going to be a pretty tight, interesting 6 issues, though. I'm really loving this title. I hope a lot of people can go out there and get this. I don't know how well distributed Aftershock is.
Not sure.
It is Garth Ennis, so it's got that going for it. But if you're a fan of a more serious comic, something that with a little more weight and a little more history behind it, you got to read this one. This one's really cool. I'm super into it.
Or if you can't find it in your shop, just wait for the trade and pick it up on Amazon.
Yeah, definitely.
What I would do.
Yeah, it'll be a really great trade, too. I think we've mentioned that already. Just from the first 2 issues, it's clear that this would be a really riveting trade to sit down and read. Cool.
So speaking of riveting, I Hate Fairyland number 4. So in this one, there was the new girl, and she was like infinitely better at all the riddles than Gertrude has been. And Gertrude goes off to find one of the ultimate evils with which to slay her. And this shit's just crazy.
Yeah. Scotty Young he's had something pretty much since we started doing this show last year, basically every month that hits in our top.
Yeah.
Which is funny because from a visual perspective, when you look at this, it looks a lot different than most of the things that we usually have in our top. It looks a lot more cartoony and fun, and it is that, but it's so much more as well. It's surprising. It has a surprising amount of depth hidden underneath that. And also, this one takes a cool turn that is keeping us interested, or at least me. I think a book like this could really easily burn you out after a while with the, you could do the same song and dance with it over and over again. And a lot of guys just would. A lot of like boom titles and these things that look like it that are maybe based on other properties that are already out there. They'll just play the same note over and over again, but this is not doing that. He's really playing with the status quo.
Yeah, I mean, the first three essentially, what was keeping us going was just her trying to escape this place, and that was about it. I mean, there were, plenty of shenanigans along the way, but now that we have like a real threat to her, like there's a clear-cut villain in this now. And her name is Happy, and she's, the cutest little cartoon character girl that you've ever seen.
Right.
And it's fantastic. So yeah, I think as long as he keeps coming up with clever ways to sort of prolong the story and make it interesting, I can't see why this wouldn't run for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. This is really, to me, this is the culmination of a lot of the adult cartoons, the things that you'll see on Cartoon Network that look and feel childish, and a child may even enjoy, but then we as adults will watch it and find a lot to like. This is that minus the making it appropriate for children part.
Yeah.
Other than the look.
There's no effort to do that.
Yeah, so you remove that part where it needs to be easily digestible by a child with, simplistic plot lines and stuff like that. I would compare it maybe to Adventure Time, actually, in a lot of ways, but it diverges from that in that way, in that there's no pretense of being appropriate for children.
Yeah, not at all.
When I read Adventure Time, I actually read part of an issue to the kids, and they enjoyed it quite a bit, but I would not do that with this, even though
it's pretty to look at.
And it has,
it looks like something.
There are some things in the themes and styles of it that are similar. So I think it's
quite similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
just, it's like you said, without the filter.
It's the natural progression of that genre to its like adult end.
Sure.
Good stuff. Anything else on that, Drew?
Maybe kudos to him for having the balls to assume that there was a group of people that would appreciate this, because nobody's really tried to tap into the adult cartoon watcher that hard. Except maybe like the Super Jail Cats or something, but
right.
Yeah, in comic form, especially now. So, yeah,
cool stuff. Let's talk about what's probably the most, on the surface, the most normal superhero-y kind of thing, but that's even a stretch. But in comparison to the rest of what we have, this is Astonishing Ant-Man number 4. Spencer, Rosanas, and what's the guy's name? Quintana or something like that? Yeah, Quintana. This is a series that we've been liking for quite a while, and I'll throw another card up here for the old Second Chance Man was what it was called.
Oh, the trade.
Right. We reviewed the first run of this and really enjoyed it, and I think this is taking that even a step further, making it even more interesting. He's really upped his game on this, and it gets better with every issue, I think.
Yeah. This one kind of reminded me of Adventure Time, too, a little bit.
After
reading Adventure Time, I bet that Nick Spencer reads Adventure Time.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, a lot of the humor in there is just, it's very similar. It's very similar.
Yeah, a lot of callbacks. You see that a lot in this, in the way that Adventure Time is kind of famous for, where one person says something and somebody somewhere else says the same thing. You see a lot of that sort of humor in here. And
just panel humor, I guess, like things that wouldn't be funny unless they were displayed the way in which they are.
Right. A lot of good juxtapositions and such. This was a good issue. It was bizarre, as always, but it also had some heartwarming stuff, which really works with this character. A lot of characters, it can feel forced, but with this guy, it really works for me when he has the stuff with the daughter and let's bring it down to it. It somehow it works just because it's normally so kooky and such. You really feel for the guy.
For sure. Yeah, the scene where he actually took off his helmet.
Right.
And we had the celebrity cameo. That was cool too.
Yeah, that was good. Mostly though, I feel like this comic continues to be somewhat of a comment on other things that are going on, where in a lot of comics where they're trying to bring them down to earth, we're getting a lot of that, and this kind of comments on that by taking it to more of an extreme. I wouldn't say it parodies or satires that idea, but it just pushes it to its limit within the Marvel universe.
I think what we came up with before was just smarter Deadpool. If you were trying to make the same sort of jokes, but not just be directly breaking the fourth wall and obnoxious about it.
Right. This is
clever.
like...
It's very clever.
Yeah, this is like if Wes Anderson took a shot at writing a superhero comic. He'd probably end up with something like this.
Sure. Yeah. So next, we have Jupiter Circle. This is another one that's pretty consistently impressed us since we've started reading it. And this one is the first one where we really start to see any continuity to the story whatsoever, other than just the characters in it. And we have this whole bit about what it actually means to be a crime fighter, so to speak. Like there's a scene with Ayn Rand and crying villains, and it's deep. It's deep for a Kate book. I don't even know if I'm comfortable calling it a Kate book. I mean, it is.
Right.
But it's so not. I mean, it's like calling Watchmen a Kate book.
Right. I was actually going to make the Watchmen comparison. This is, I feel like, the postmodern take on the Watchmen idea, where we're looking at superheroes in the context of a grounded world in which their actions actually have effect on the world around them, and then those actions ripple out and it comes back to them again.
Yeah.
A lot of times in superhero comics, we will have one or the other, where we have to deal with either a large issue, right? We'll see a large issue, and then how does a character respond?
Right.
Or we'll see what happens when this character does this thing. But what we don't often get in superhero comics is the give and take that we have here, where the character does this, the world reacts because they're a famous superhero, and then it comes back, and now how does the hero internalize and work through those things?
Right. Not to mention the split political ideology that comes through in this. Makes you really wonder like how superheroes would actually work in our bipartisan system, Yeah, it does. And I think you're right there as well. It makes some political commentary here that is not easy to tread, especially in a political year like we're in. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily shove it down your throat or anything either. And it's not a political based comic like Prez either. It's just
right. But most of what they do is response to politics. Like it's the characters responding to the politics that have come up because they exist. So again, it's that Watchmen-like give and take. Mark Millar, that's really the really surprising part of this, I think, is how nuanced Mark Millar is in this series.
He's a late bloomer, man. Yeah. His flower is maybe the most beautiful of all.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what else Mark Millar does now, if he continues down this path of more nuanced, subtle, introspective comics, because this is cool. All right, well, let's move on to one of two Tom King books out of, almost 30 comics that we read. We read two that Tom King writes, and he's batting 100% with us. It's 1,000. I'm not a sports guy. It's 1,000. So this is King and Gerads. This is Sheriff of Babylon, issue number 3. This is on Vertigo. And we both liked this series quite a bit for issue 1 and 2. But it's such a complicated narrative that he's weaving here. I think the first couple issues, there was some hesitation on both of our parts just in regards to what the hell is happening? Like, how does this
Right.
all go together? There was a lot of culture shock elements of trying to read this because he just dives right into like Iraqi politics.
Yeah, and the art was a little bit softer, so sometimes picking people apart and telling who's who and why they're important to whoever and whatever the fuck. It was confusing.
Right.
Uh,
This one.
This one was awesome.
Yeah.
I think I compared it to Brubaker.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're a fan of Brubaker, get it.
Yeah, definitely. It really takes everything and finally pulls it all together and starts making sense of everything you've read in the first two, which in hindsight makes the first two issues better because
Right.
now they start to make sense. So if you read the first one and thought, ooh, I don't know.
Give it 2 more.
Yeah, give it a couple more and get into this. I bet it's still out there. I mean, Tom King is kind of becoming a hot property, but this is probably his least known series. Go grab it. It's really cool. It's like kind of a political Wild West theater. It's hard to describe.
You get lots of twists everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like big shit happens.
Right.
Like those oh fuck moments that you really like feel as a reader.
Right, and a lot of character drama and showdowns between people and different ideologies smashing heads against each other. Just really cool book. And the art style in this one has progressed through 3 issues. We talked about this as well, where it feels like Gerard's, or however you say his name, is really coming into his own on these characters and starting to understand how they tick and how to make them really move on the page to where not only is it easier to tell who's who now, but you can really start to feel the emotion in them just based on the art. It's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Not to mention, like, when you get to this moment where you kind of feel your stride, like, you can just feel that as a reader. Like, when somebody is comfortable within their work, I mean, every little bit of it has purpose, and his style comes through in every panel,
Right.
which is awesome.
Yeah, agreed. This one hits on every point for me. Great stuff.
Every point.
Every one of them.
So the other Tom King book is The Vision, 'cause Tom King has a vision. It's this one.
Yeah, and this is who's on this? King, Walta, and Belair, right?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, I know. Thank you.
So this one, man, right off the bat, the Charlie Brown scene where they're just like having the most philosophical argument about kicking somebody who's trying to hold a football for you. I mean, that's just like in a nutshell this comic.
Right.
And it's fantastic seeing the world's perspective from these characters, getting to know them and how they perceive other things and how they perceive themselves within those things and the efforts that they're making to assimilate themselves and things they think are okay.
Yeah, and they've really been building drama and tension over 4 issues of what's happening with this background situation. Well, the first issue created the problem, and then we've had 3 issues where we're building to it, and we get the initial resolution, or at least the pop of
Right.
boiling over now in this issue, and man, it really delivers on it. Really, really heavily delivers it.
Yeah.
Like a shocking conclusion, right? Like
Yeah.
this deserves like that goofy, shocking conclusion that you often see. This one deserves it.
Yeah. The end of this one hit me so hard. Tom King books hit me hard this week.
Yeah,
or this
yeah.
month.
Well, and it's just so beautifully well written. We have
It's funny in points.
Yeah, and like at the end we have
sincere,
the
sad.
Yeah, and we have like this cool narrative that runs over the top of each other where have multiple threads kind of running at the same time to really give you a ton of impact by the end.
Right. The scene that Viv keeps playing through her head.
Yeah, exactly.
Different moments throughout life.
Yeah, and he runs it through like a couple different times to give a different effect each time. Like it's the same thing, but each time it comes
Means
across.
something
It
different.
means something else. Yeah.
Again, and the artwork, while nothing special, is perfect for the comic. So I wouldn't change a thing.
No, this
It's
is
a winner.
far and away. As much as I like Astonishing Ant-Man, this is far and away my favorite Marvel book. No question. Easy.
Yeah, easily.
Easy win. Also, I hear in All New, All Different Avengers, they're apparently playing Vision up as some sort of villain. I mean, he's still on the team, but it looks like there's going to be some turn. I might actually go back and read it. Like, this book is so good, it might convince me to read a book I wouldn't normally read just to get more of this character.
I probably won't, but I really like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably be
I think it's one of
disappointed.
those things with, the same character in anybody else's hands. I don't think
Right.
I would give a shit about half as much.
Yeah. So, anyway, super, super good.
Super good.
Yeah. Now, we do have one more we're going to talk about, and this one is an interesting discussion to have, because maybe all of the pieces together don't quite add up to one of my favorites or one of your favorites for the month, right? Like it, but somehow all the pieces themselves are really great, so we're going to talk about it. It's Bloodshot Reborn. It's Lemire, LaRosa, and like Reber?
Yeah.
Reber.
Sure.
This is Bloodshot Reborn number 10. This is a Valiant comic.
So the first thing that we really noticed about this is just the amazing, amazing quality of this. I mean, the cover on this is like what you would get on like a trade or something.
Right, like
that.
actual like paper stock is what we're talking about here. Like it's incredible paper stock.
And then you open it up, and we were, pretty on the upside about the artwork in Bloodshot before, but then this just like takes it up like a whole, like another level, like sets a new bar for the artwork, and it's quite high.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very pleased with that.
It reminds me in some ways of Alex Ross's Marvels, or just Alex Ross in general. If you're aware of Alex Ross and the stuff he does, it might kind of tell you what sort of thing we're looking at here. But it's like this. There's so many things that went right with this. The jump forward in time is so unexpected and ballsy to do. You could only do it with Valiant Comics. You're not going to see this, in one of the major two. And it's basically Mad Max. Let's do a Mad Max comic with Bloodshot as an old dude. It's just weird and
Old
interesting.
Man Bloodshot. It's rad.
Yeah, it really is pretty rad. But when all the pieces come together, there's nothing honestly that intriguing about this.
I think the deal for me was it's a really good plot, but there wasn't just anything that really engaged me that much. We didn't really learn anything new, so to say, about the characters, and
Right.
there are new threats and everything, but they're all very like. I don't want to say like cartoon villainish, but it's like a Mad Max kind of thing,
right?
Yeah.
Which I actually have the exact same criticism about the new Mad Max movie, in that I really had the same problem with the film, where it looks amazing and it's fun, it's action packed, and the setting's really cool and unique, but nothing. Nobody really does anything. There's no real morality tell or story to even follow. It's just they're fighting in cars, and it's kind of the same sort of problem here, which keeps it out of our top, I think, just that alone. But man, there's so much to like here. We just had to talk about it for at least a few minutes, especially.
I think he really needs a really strong villain. I think that's what this series is.
I think so too. But I think
because it really hasn't had one so far.
No, there really hasn't been much of a villain. It's been very much just a character drama about him. And I agree, giving him some big bad to go up against that is revealed early and we know about would help a lot.
And also that takes more than an issue to best.
Right, and maybe you could put him challenge him a little bit and him have to come back and recover. But I think the other reason I wanted to talk about it is if you're not on the Bloodshot Reborn train, this is an awesome place to get on because it's a new story, right? We had like a long 9-issue arc, really, and now 10, you can hop right in here and you get this whole Mad Max thing. So if you're into Mad Max, you think Bloodshot looks kind of cool, but you missed out, jump on here. It's a cool spot.
Sure. So now we're on to the shit list. Let's start with Last Gang in Town.
Yeah.
This was one of the ones where we read the first issue and we were like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, well, we'll give it one more issue. And then we read the second issue and we were like, what the fuck is this? So I think we're probably both in agreement to stop reading it.
Yeah, I'm done with it.
But a little bit more on why. think your consistent criticism of this is that it makes all these efforts to mock people who make seemingly very contrived efforts, yet this in itself seems like an extremely contrived effort.
Right.
On top of that, we have a storyline that... I mean, I guess we have a storyline. It's kind of hard to follow. I don't know really what the fuck's going on, or like why these characters are being tasked to do this thing.
Right.
We have these side plots that don't seem relevant at all. The artwork is what it is. You'll like it or you don't.
Right. I have no qualms with the art. It's
No.
It's just scattered. This whole thing just feels like a scattered mess, and just contrived.
Yeah.
Fake punk.
Yeah. This is like a studded fucking anarchy wristband that you get from Hot Topic.
Yeah, it's Hot Topic, the comic book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next shitty one we got, and we were split about one of these, but then we were together on the other one.
Right.
So, Scarlet Witch 2 and 3. And 2, I will say, 1 I just across the board wasn't a fan of. You liked it, I couldn't find a redeeming factor. 2, I thought the artwork was cool enough that if it stayed like this, I would be on board with reading it still. Like, I basically stopped reading it like halfway through, but I spent enough time looking at the pages, where, I got my times out of it.
Sure.
So then 3 comes along.
And it's Steve fucking Dillon.
Yeah. So the artwork totally changes. It's bad. It's...
For this series, it's bad. I don't know if it's just bad. Maybe. I know Steve Dillon gets a lot of shit for being bad. He did Punisher Max, and I love Punisher Max. I think it's really cool, and I thought his style was very fitting for it, but...
Well, in this book, it's just absurd.
It is absurd. It doesn't make any sense for this, especially after the first 2 issues were the way they were.
The writing also totally changed for it. It became way more of just like everything just about this became so much more typical that it just it ruined everything.
The whole thing feels phoned in to me. I don't know if Robinson had a great idea and it just petered out before it ever got started. The first issue for me felt like a great hook. I know for you it felt cliche, but I loved the idea of it. And the art was cool, reminded me of, it was almost like a modern Sandman kind of thing. It was just cool, and it just all fell apart, man. I'm not into it at all now.
Word.
So
we're dropping it?
We're dropping it.
Cool.
It's gone.
Next, Deadpool and Cable. So this one, the first issue of this, I was a fan of. You were not a fan of.
Right.
The first half of this, we were both fans of. You even stopped halfway through and said you thought it was like really catching its stride. Then we both hit the second half of the book and just totally fell off.
Right.
I stopped caring.
You didn't even finish this one, right?
I didn't even finish this one.
Yeah. It did have a good, clever ending. Very Back to the Future-y kind of ending. But, man, I just don't know. I'm not feeling it.
You should just make a habit, as I mentioned before, of getting the number 1 out of these short Deadpool runs. Because usually the first issue is good and everything beyond that's trash.
Yeah.
Then maybe the last issue.
Yeah.
So, keeping this one, dropping this one.
I'm in the air on it. I could go either way.
I think there's so much cool shit coming out. We should probably just say goodbye.
I'm cool with saying goodbye to it.
Cool.
All right, there it goes.
This next one's definitely going goodbye. Silver Surfer number 1. Silver Age Surfer number 1.
Yeah.
It's the way it felt. It's just so, increasingly cartoony and, maybe a child's version of the Twilight Zone or something like that. It wasn't anything that I was hoping it would be. So maybe that's, observer bias.
Right.
But
right.
I don't think even if I had expectations and I read this, I would just think, it feels just like a Silver Age book.
Right. But what's funny is, here's the irony for me, is I've been off the Silver Surfer train for a long time. I have read some old school Silver Surfer, which is basically Silver Age, and Silver Surfer at that time was one of those books that was in the Silver Age, but was like way ahead of its time and was very philosophical and very much not about Monster of the Week. And this is like the exact opposite of what it used to be.
And this came out now. And
Right.
That came out then.
Which, yeah, this looks like it should be from then, and that was more like it should be now. Like it would be a great throwback now, but this just seems like it belongs next to the pink Batman. You know, I don't know. It's just cheesy garbage, I think.
Yeah.
And what's funny is this has a pretty big following. Like I guess a lot of people are really into this and think it's really clever and genre eschewing. I don't get it. It's definitely not my thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I know Dan Slott can do some good stuff.
Right. I thought for sure this was going to be our thing. Like we were going to read this and be like, "Whoa, this is great!" And then, it's so crazy and weird, and it doesn't do what you expect, and it's kooky in a fun way that doesn't talk down to you. But
I got a sensible chuckle out of like a couple lines, but
Right.
that was about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do like these two's art style. I think it's fun and interesting, and I like this loose, old school Kirby-esque thing that they're doing. Really, it's just the scripting. I blame Allred, right? No, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. I blame Slott for it. I don't like what Slott wrote here.
Yeah. You dropped the ball.
I like the art, but I don't like the story at all. It's retarded. Sorry, retarded people.
Don't mean to offend you by comparing you to this comic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that about does it.
Yeah, I think that's it. So you can check back with this Thursday mornings when we do our weekly pull list review. It's this, but just for what was out that week that we read, and we just read it and talk about it. And then every Monday we do something like this, where we talk about
something like this.
Random things. We'll talk about a trade, or we do
broader concepts, bargain bin.
Yeah, bargain bin issues, where we talk about stuff that we think you should read that's like super cheap that nobody buys for some reason. We talk about new trades coming out. We talk about industry as a whole, old trades like classics and stuff. We try to mix it up and keep it fresh, so subscribe and check it out. And if you don't like us in the future, unsubscribe.
Yeah. But don't dislike, because just leave. There's no reason to be negative.
Yeah, don't be a jerk, man.
Just keep it to yourself,